to have you here.
Happy to be here.
This is your first time here at the Tampa Bay Comic Convention.
Yes, first time, yeah.
First time to Tampa as well? How do you like the humidity?
Hot. Oh my God. I don't know how you do it. I was just saying to someone, I said, if I lived here, I don't think I would ever go outside.
So, I think people kind of get that. Well, we're excited to have you here. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. And we're thrilled. We have some people who like to ask you some questions. If we can get questions, so let's do this. All right.
Hi, you look great.
So, longtime fan of Once Upon a Time. What was it like playing the Wicked Witch, Selena, and how did you get into character for each episode?
It was definitely the most fun I've ever had at work. I mean, it's the most fun role. I loved the writing on the show, and just the character herself was absolutely nuts, and she was completely insane, which is so much fun to play. Because I'm just normal. Well, I'm not normal, let's be real, but like I got to add, you know, my personality to it, and I really, really had an amazing time. And I didn't really have like a massive process in terms of like getting into character, but when on the days when I got to be green, sort of the process of becoming green, it took sort of 3 hours from beginning to me drinking my coffee to then getting onto set was probably about 3 hours. So all of that kind of getting ready sort of helped me sort of become her, you know, and then on the white days, you know, it was easier. But the white days were boring. I get to be white every day, like, so, and I read this, you know, the hair and makeup department and all the other members of the crew get the scripts before the actors, because they have to start prepping for the next episode. So actors typically get the scripts last. So whenever I was going to be green in an episode, it was always my makeup artist telling me first, she's like, we get to be green in the next episode. I'm like, yes! It was never enough. I always wanted more, because when I had to be green, she and I had to do it in a separate trailer so that we didn't like fume out the rest of the cast. And I'm like, wait, but what's happening to my lungs? And am I going to die? But whatever. But it was fun for me and the makeup artist, because then we would have like our own room while we did that makeup and drink coffee and chat, listen to music. So those were kind of special times on the show for me. Thank you.
Now it was interesting for you because you came in, the show was already established. And I heard that you were actually a fan of the show before you were cast. Is that true? You're familiar with the show before you got cast?
No, absolutely not. I'd never seen it. I had never seen it when I got offered the part, and I was like, oh my God, I really need to watch Once Upon a Time. And it was on my list. I've always got a list of shows. I watch a lot of television. I was like, I must get around to that, I must get around to that, and then didn't. And then when they called me to say, hey, do you want to be on the show? And I'm like, absolutely. And I found out that I had about 3 weeks before I started. So I watched 2.5 seasons in 3 weeks. It was amazing. I'm like, this is really good. I got like my curtains drawn, and I was watching like 10 episodes a day, and I just fell into it and like did a massive binge watch.
Oh, wonderful. It's awesome. That's how I think we all want to watch it, right? Just want to binge it and just enjoy every moment.
Nothing like, I'm currently doing it with Stranger Things, and I'm in heaven. Oh, the show is so good. I was watching it till like 2 o'clock this morning. I'm like, go to bed, Rebecca, but I couldn't. I love TV.
We all do. Go ahead.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming. I just wanted to ask.
What's your name first?
I'm Dawn.
Nice to meet you, Dawn.
Nice to meet you. And I've been a long-time fan. And just anything you're in, you're just wonderful.
Thank you.
I just wondered what your favorite project you've ever worked on was, and who your favorite person you've ever worked with is. That's hard.
I would definitely say Once Upon a Time is the most fun I've ever had at the office. And I think it's because I've just got so many friends on that show, and everybody made me feel so welcome from the beginning. And normally when you do a TV show, like you walk away and you've got like one really good mate, whether it's crew or cast or whatever. I tend to sort of get one person from each job that stays in my life forever. And I mean, I've got like 15 friends or more from Once Upon a Time. So a lot of the time when I was at work, I didn't feel like I was at work. It was sort of like being at college, because there was just a lot of silliness, you know, and messing about, and poor new guest directors going, shut up! We're like, sorry. I mean, we were like children. We were so obnoxious. But it was just a good time. You know, when the cameras weren't rolling, I always used to say to Lana, I'm like, I wish they had had another camera crew filming us making the show, because that was more interesting. Because the writing was great on the show, but our relationships and all the silliness that was going on would have been a really great reality show on like Bravo or something.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so hi, I'm Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
So my question is, if you could have been any other character on the show, who would you have been?
Nobody.
Really?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot, and I used to lie. And like, you know, you lie and say you've got hobbies. I've got hobbies, I watch telly. And I used to lie and say, oh my god, I'd be Rumble. Blah, blah. I'm like, no, I wouldn't. Like, if I would never want to be anybody else other than Zelina, because she's such a big part of me. And also, everybody else on the show was so good at being that character, I wouldn't even want to touch it and mess with what they had done, because they were so good. So I don't think there's another role that I would want to play. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be good. Boring. You know? So I'm just so... I mean, I knew they were going to make me a villain before they... I said yes to being on the show before I even knew what the character was, and my agent was like, we should probably wait and see what the character is. I'm like, I would love to be on a pre-existing hit TV show. Thank you. So I didn't even know what I was going to be, but I knew. And me and my husband went out for a curry the night before I was going to talk to Adam and Eddie, and we're Googling, like, Disney villains, bitchy Disney people. Like, we're trying to, like, think about who it could be. Of course, the Wicked Witch of the West never came up in my Google search, because she's not a Disney character. So they wanted to add the Wicked Witch of the West to Once Upon a Time earlier, but they couldn't get them. They had to license the character and pay for the rights to have the character, because she's not owned by Disney. So they had to like do it through the publisher of the books, of the Wizard of Oz books.
Yeah. So that was a complete surprise, because I mean that was
Yeah.
out of left field, right?
I knew I was going to be a bitch, but I thought it was going to be a Disney bitch. I wasn't. So if there was some sort of, I was like, I knew I was going to be horrible. I knew it. And they're like, you were the first person we thought of. I'm like, thank you. Also, she's very ugly in the film, so also double thank you, you know? Thanks, guys.
Is it kind of more freeing to play a bad guy, or versus like playing like a princess? Do you feel like you have a little more range of motion being a bad guy or villain?
I wouldn't know if it's more freeing, but it's more complex, which is more challenging and more fun. And also, it's challenging because you don't just want to like play mean, because that's too on the nose and that's boring. So it's like, how do I make someone that's technically a villain have some layers and some vulnerabilities so that they're relatable, as opposed to just being one-note nasty? That's not interesting to watch. So it's more challenging in a way to make it interesting, which I enjoyed.
I love that, because I think the most effective villains are the ones that think they're not a villain. They're going through and they're realizing that, and I think that was portrayed very well. Thank you for your question.
That's a really good point, though, because...
Thank you so much for being here and spending your time with us.
Oh, bless you. I'm having a good time. No, I think, as you say, like, the best thing about villains, or the most interesting villains, are villains that don't... Villains don't think they're villains. They don't walk around and say, I'm a villain. They're just like, I'm amazing, I'm me, why is everybody pissed off? Because I'm amazing. Also, I've been through some stuff, so calm down. You know? They don't think they're evil.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hiya.
How was filming the musical episode?
Oh.
Okay, what's your name?
Joey.
Joey?
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. We had so much fun. It was like, preparing for a week of Broadway, you know? And we all got to work with a private vocal coach who was in LA, and we would like FaceTime him and practice our singing, and we got to go into a recording studio, and then when we filmed it, they would play our song really loudly so that we were like singing along to our own songs. So it kind of felt like shooting a music video. And each song took a day, so I got to do my song for a whole day at work. And I never got sick of the song. I was like, this is amazing! It was like a dream come true. Like, I love singing. So it was like my first time actually singing professionally. So just ticked that off my bucket list. It was really fun.
Your song was the best on that episode.
Oh my God, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm from Brazil. And I would like to know, how do you balance your career and be a mom at the same time? And if you have any project for the future?
Great question. I've never, ever I have never worked so hard in my life. This weekend is a holiday for me because being a mum is exhausting, and I laugh when I think about being on set, you know, thinking I was at work. No, I wasn't. I wasn't at work. I was sitting in a chair, and people came to me and said, "Oh my God, like, how are you? Do you need a blanket for your knees?" I'm like, "I do." "Do you want a cup of tea?" I'm like, "Thirsty." Nobody's bringing me shit anymore, okay? Nobody's bringing me anything except their dirty bottoms. Like, "Mummy, I done a poo." So it's humbling. And I'm not juggling work and parenting because Milo was 4 months old when COVID hit and the world closed, right? He was 4 months old. And then the industry a few months later sort of figured out how to reopen and how to film things with COVID protocols and all that shit. And then I was like, oh, okay, and I started to go on auditions again, and then I got pregnant again, and I'm like, well, nobody's going to hire a fat pregnant lady. So then like another year went by, so it's been like a chunk of time of like 2 kids, 1 pandemic, and I don't feel quite ready just yet to go back to work, just because when I'm working, I might be working 12, 17 hours a day, and my baby's only 10 months old, you know? So I'm like, no. Just to miss it all, because the beginning they change so quickly, and I don't want to get like a text from a nanny going, "First steps," like, oh, I don't want to miss it. So in a little bit, I think I'll be ready to kind of figure out how I can have a work-life balance where I can do a really cool, like, get a great part in a great show, but still be able to be very present in my children's lives, because what's the point of having kids if you're not... I mean, I know obviously some people don't have a choice, but I feel very lucky that I am able to spend, like I saved some of my money, that I am able to spend so much time with them, you know? Because all of a sudden they're going to be on their iPhones going, bye, and they're not going to want to hang out with me anymore. So the beginning is the bit where they're like, "Mummy," and you're like, "Shut up." So, you know, now they're really into me, so I want to be around for that bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obrigada.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Allison.
Hello.
You were amazing on Once Upon a Time.
Thank you.
What's your favorite memory of filming Once Upon a Time?
Oh God, how long is this panel? 2 hours?
Yeah, we got
3? So many memories. Honestly, because I didn't go to college, right? I didn't go to university. So for me, being on Once Upon a Time was like going to college. And I always thought like our trailers were like our dorm rooms, you know? So there's a lot of sitting and waiting on a show, because you're waiting for it to be your turn, or you're waiting for the lighting crew to turn the lights around, so there's a lot of sitting. So those times for me were my favourite, because I'm like, ooh, whose door am I going to go and knock on? Like, do you want to hang out? Do you want a cup of tea? So my favourite memories were really like when Colin was playing the guitar and we're all singing and drinking whiskey, and I'm stealing Lana's chocolates and playing with our dogs and just hanging out. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning and we're delirious, or hanging out in Granny's diner and tripping over Belle because she's asleep on the floor. And there's just like all of us just like piles of bodies and just talking nonsense and just laughing. That really are my most favourite memories, are just laughing and laughing with the other cast. And then like, we're ready for you on set, and we're like, but we're having a really great time. So it was almost like, no, we're hanging out, leave us alone.
Amazing.
Just the hanging out really with my friends, I would say I miss the most.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Rebecca. My name's Jerry.
Hello.
So, for my question, I'm wondering, I gotta know, which season is your favorite?
All right, I have 2. Season 1, which is weird because I'm not in it, you would think I wouldn't be interested. But I love season 1 because it was so new, and you're like, oh my God, where are these people? And it was, season 1 for me was the most magical season. And then my second favourite season is season 3, where I come along. You're welcome. Thank you. And that whole arc of Wicked always wins. Because they started calling the seasons like 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, because they would have sort of like different story arcs, you know, to break up the seasons. So I would say season 1 and 3B are my definite favourites.
The last 2 seasons are my favorite also. You play amazing in character.
Thank you, that's really kind. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Bye.
So you knew it was magical then when you were binging it. The first season, you're like, this is.
I was happy to get a job because I didn't have much money at the time. And then I started watching. I'm like, oh my god. Oh wow. Okay. I was already excited, and then I was like, oh my god. Especially because I'd been on Lost, right? And I came into Lost in season 4, and like what a blessing to be injected into a pre-existing hit. It's very different as an actor than like shooting the pilot and waiting to see if you're going to get picked up, and then are you even going to get cancelled? Are you going to get a season 2? That's really stressful. So to sort of get injected, you know, into something that's already established, it's like, oh thank God, the hard work's already been done. I just get to enjoy the magic carpet ride.
Excellent.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Lucy. I was just wondering, what is like your favorite like ecosystem, like out of like ocean, desert, like rainforest, that kind of thing?
I am most comfortable, because look at me. My dermatologist always says, sweetie, you don't belong here. Like, I know, I don't belong in sun. I mean, I glow in the dark. So I would say Vancouver was definitely my jam when it came to ecosystems. And I didn't realize this when I first moved there, but Vancouver is on the same latitude as where I was born. It's like 2 degrees off on the planet, up there, up the north. So when I'm in sort of moist, damp, cool air, where maybe it rained a bit ago, and there's like a river flowing, and everything's really green, and there's lots of trees, and the smell of that, and I'm not getting burnt, and I don't need sunscreen, I've got a cup of tea, I'm like, ooh, and a blanket on my knees that people used to bring me. That, to me, is my hashtag happy place ecosystem.
I agree. Thank you.
I think you've been moderated, I think, 30 different comic conventions. I don't think anybody's ever asked.
Yeah, no, that is the first time.
First time I ever heard that question. Amazing.
In my entire career, I've been asked that question. So do I. Wicked. Hi. Again.
Anna.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask about the process of like reading the scripts and just like seeing your character just get progressively more crazy. Like, how was that like reading the scripts for the first time and just being like, oh, it's getting worse?
It's funny because you do get them so sort of last minute. Sometimes you get them and you've got to start shooting them like in 2 days, and you're sort of frantically going through all the storylines, trying to get to your bit where your character pops up. And there would be sometimes I would read the scripts and read something awful, you know, that I had to say that's just so bad, you know, so mean and so messed up, and I'd look at it like, ooh, oh dear, oh no, I'm going to get a lot of hate tweets for this one, you know, like strangling Henry and stealing the Charming's baby and killing Bay and oops and all that crap. Oh, you think, oh no, they're all going to hate me. This is like, oh no, but yay. So it's like a double-edged sword. But yeah, like reading it really quick and finding out how hated I was going to be was actually kind of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the creative process, how much input were you allowed to help craft your character, or was that, or did they have a vision of that when you got cast, and the director's like, we want it like this, or did they kind of give you a little bit of free rein at the beginning to find yourself in the character?
It wasn't really the directors on the show that said this is what we're thinking, because also with network TV and most other TV, each episode has a different director. You know, they're sort of guesting, so it's really like the executive producers that have a say on how the character's going to be. But what I love about Adam and Eddie is they literally just wrote what they wrote and let me do what I did. And that doesn't happen very often. Sometimes you can be really micromanaged, which for me takes the fun out of it and the freedom out of it, and might kind of quash an energy that I was going to bring, because I feel like I've been over-directed. And they really, really let all of us kind of do our thing, and I think that's why the show was the way that it was, is that they cast the right people for those roles, that we were given a lot of creative freedom which doesn't happen very often, and I'm really grateful to them for that, because I got to kind of do my thing, and they never were like, oh, Rebecca, terrible choice. They just were like, do you, boo? It was great.
Well, that kind of goes to speaking. They trusted you. They trusted your skill set, that's going to be feels really good to know that they just like, hey, we know that you can do this character right, so that's awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah, lucky. Hi, that's a very wide stance.
It's like, do you want to raise it higher?
I just felt like it was a choice, but yeah.
Maybe not the best choice. But, so if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and give her one piece of advice, what would it be? And like, can you just deliver it in the Valley Girl voice too? Just saying.
You should like totally be who you really are and not like give a shit about like what anyone thinks about you, because ew to everyone else, ew. Like, do you. Fuck it. Life is too short.
That's amazing.
Hello.
Hello. My question is going to be, like, what was the either moment or project that you worked on that you felt like kickstarted your career and you're like, I'm going to do this full time and this is what I'm going to be?
The first job that I got was like, oh my god, now I'm an actual real life actress as opposed to I'm a hustler, baby, give it to me. Was in 2006, and I got this part on a show that was on Fox called Justice, and it was a show about defense attorneys, American defense attorneys. It was really intense. And everybody spoke really fast. Half the time I didn't know what the bloody hell I was talking about. And I look at my lines going, what? American legal jargon? I didn't know what any of it meant. I'm like, how on earth am I going to make this believable? And I'll never forget, I went to the script supervisor. I'm like, oh, there's a typo in the script, there's a mistake. And she's like, what do you mean there's a mistake? I'm like, here it says blah, 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 my client pleads the fifth. And she went, uh-huh. And I went, well, the sentence doesn't finish, like the fifth what? And she's like, amendment? And I'm like, what's an amendment? And she's like, oh, like, why does this person have this job? I'm like, I don't know how I got this part. I really don't understand why I got this job. It was, I think my mum and dad bought me like a law dictionary. I didn't know what I was saying. It was so hard. But I was the female lead on the show, I shouldn't have been. But it enabled me to move to LA. I was living in New York at the time when I booked it. And then, yeah, it brought me to LA and it enabled me to quit modeling, which I hated. Hated it. So then I got to stop doing that, because I was a model and an actress for 6 years in New York, so like trying to make it as an actor. So I'd be like, one day I'd be on set with Meryl Streep, and then the next day, you know, I'm like modeling khakis from Target. And, you know, someone would say to the photographer, did you know that Rebecca's doing a movie with Meryl Streep? And they're like, oh, that's so cute. Like, to believe it, you know? And I'm like, no, I swear to God, I'm shooting a movie called The Dead West Prada. And they're like, oh, bless her heart. You know? So that was kind of the moment where I'm like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. I hated modeling. So basically, I've been like a full-time actress since 2006, and now I'm a full-time diaper changer. Thank you.
I can just see you going to the scriptwriter, like, I think it meant to say drink a fifth, and like, complete a fifth.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Thank you so much for portraying a powerful woman villain, but also with a kind heart in the end kind of thing. Yeah. It's nice to have a powerful woman out there.
Yeah.
As a mom, looking back, I'm her mom. She loves theater. What advice could you give to someone as working for Disney as you did? Somebody that wants to get into the business, what career advice would you give as a mom?
Well, obviously be careful of looking out for people that you think might be taking advantage, because there's a lot of scam artists out there, or people like, oh, we're an agency, and they're not really, or, oh, give us $1,000 and we'll do some headshots. Like, that kind of stuff that you see online is all rubbish, because a real agency doesn't charge you for anything. They work for you and they take 10% commission, so there is no sort of charging. That stuff always scares me, you know? So I would like, I often have people reach out to me like, hey, my son wants to get into acting. Is this a legitimate agency? And it's in a state that I've never been to. So then I'll screen grab that and I send it to my agent. it might even be someone like DMing me on Twitter, and I'll verify and come back and go, absolutely not. That is not a real agency. Take your daughter and run, run, run. You know. So legitimacy is key, and getting in a class is really important. Just honing your craft, and it shows that you're serious. If you can afford it, I could really, because acting classes are very expensive. And then, you know, trying to get representation. That's really the biggest and most important thing, is finding a manager or an agent that is going to submit you for roles. If anything, you know, wherever you're living, that maybe you're shooting locally, and start trying to build a resume, which is why I started working in New York, because I thought, you know, it's a smaller pond, I'll be a bigger fish, because LA is like, everybody's an actor in LA. Everybody you meet is an actor. So I thought starting somewhere else actually, I think, was really beneficial to me. But, you know, so I had like a few things on my resume, and my headshots already done before I then went to LA. That helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent advice, excellent advice. Next question.
Hi, my name is Isa. First I want to say that you were amazing once upon a time. You were my favorite villain ever. Like, you just, oh my gosh, I love you so much. But I wanted to ask, like, how was it being green in front of everyone? Just like, you were just green, the only green person there.
I was definitely an ethnic minority on the show. I mean, it's not easy being green. That was the name of one of the episodes, wasn't it? It's not easy being green. And when the show was finishing, Adam and Eddie did this amazing thing for us, and they gave all the actors a gift of what they thought was our best episode. Like their favourite episode of our character. It was really cute, and they did it. They made it in like hardback books, kind of like, you know, the proper Once Upon a Time books. So we all got one, and mine was It's Not Easy Being Green. But once my makeup was finished, I would forget that I wasn't white. And then I'd always scare the shit out of myself going to the toilet. I'm like, oh my God! It was me. Like, I was terrifying. But I felt like me, and then I'd look and I'm like, that is really scary. As I said, being green was always my favourite. You know, I was like, oh, I could be white any day. Yawn, you know?
Did it make it hard sometimes to emote and act being with all the makeup on, or was it?
Never felt it.
Never felt it?
I was never cognizant of it. Even when I had like stuck on green nails and 60,000 pins in my hair and hat pins in my hair and sopping wet dress that weighs 65 pounds. Like, you think about how uncomfortable it was. I only felt uncomfortable when the cameras weren't rolling. It was weird. So when I was sitting in my chair and I'm like, oh my God, my back and all my head hurts and this, that and the other. But the minute they said action, all of that uncomfortableness went away, and I was just in it. And then they'd like cut and I'm like, oh, where's my chair? But when I was in it, when I was Zelina, I wasn't aware of how uncomfortable I was. It was weird. Thank God. Otherwise my performance would have been moany.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and in the fall I'm going into school for acting, and I was wondering if there's anything that you wish that you'd done differently when you were going into acting, or that you know now that you wish you knew then?
I mean, it would have been nice to be able to go to school for it. I think that you're already way ahead of me. I mean, that's amazing that you were able to do that, you know, and be able to go to a good school and train and act and things like that, because I didn't get to do that. So I think that's really amazing. Like, if I could do things differently, I would love to have gone back in time and been able to do that. But also just, I think, there's so many people along the way in my 20s in the beginning that were so horrible to me and said such horrible things that I came so close to quitting so many times. Like, I even had this agent, like my first agent was so verbally abusive and so cruel. She would say horrible things to me, like, I don't know who you think you are, and I'm like, oh my God, like, do people really talk to people like this? And I almost quit, and I ended up telling on her. So I'm like, I feel like this is abuse. Is this abuse? And so I went to the owner of the agency, and I'm still with that agency today. I've been with them for 22 years. And I said, I have to tell you something. This woman is saying this kind of stuff to me. And he said, can you do me a favor? Do you mind if I get the owner of the company from LA on speakerphone? And I'm like, oh my God. But I was telling on a bully, right? So I told the owner of the company and everything she'd been saying, the way she'd been treating me, and I was the only person in her division that was actually working, by the way, which, why are you being horrible to the one that's booking? And she got fired that day. And I was really proud of myself. It was scary, but I was like, she's never going to do that to another person ever again. So just always stay true to yourself, and if things don't feel right, then they're not. Just believe in your intuition and your gut, and if it's really what you really want to do, never listen to, I call them naysayers. You know, people that like try to criticize you, or people would talk about me like, oh, you know, you're not naturally thin, or your hair's a bit weird, or people that were jealous, people from school, you know, they were really jealous and said really hurtful, horrible things, and I'm really proud of myself that I didn't let other people destroy my dream, because that was their actual intent. And I always say, like, success is the best revenge to bullies. So just, if you want to do it and you're loving it, do it, and don't ever give up.
Thank you.
Good luck. Welcome.
All right, next question.
Hello. My name's Cameron.
Hi.
I was actually having a question about, you said you watched Stranger Things. Have you seen all the seasons?
No, spoiler alert. I'm just starting season 4.
Awesome. So
I know!
it's not a spoiler question.
Okay.
I was going to do that, but since you haven't seen season 4.
Thank you.
If you had the choice, or if you had been given the option to play a character on the show, what would that character be?
I would say Winona Ryder's character, Will's mum. But if it was like a day at the office, then I would be Billy's mum on the beach. Just a little pop-in, little cameo. That would have been cool. I love that show. It's so good. Oh my God. You know what I'm doing tonight?
Hi.
Hello.
This is probably like the stupidest question, but for acting you have to learn different accents. Which one was the hardest one to learn?
I had to learn how to do a Boston accent once. Actually, you know what? I thought it was going to be really hard, and it ended up not being as hard as I thought, because they do the same thing in England that we do, where we don't say our R's. So Americans say car, bar, and in England we say car, bar, and that's what Bostonians do. They say, I went to the bar, I drove my car. It's actually very similar. I can do a lot of acts. I don't have many talents. I've got like 3. Good cup of tea, good listener, which is rare for an actor, and harsh but fair. And I'm pretty good at accents, so even if I can't do one, I'm able to learn it quite quickly. Yeah, I love doing accents. It's fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Noah.
Hi.
I had a 2-part question. If you were to have a movie directed about your life, who would you cast as yourself, and who would you have directed?
I've always wanted to work with Jon Favreau as a director, because Swingers is one of my favorite films. And to play me, I would probably hire Jessica Chastain. Or Bryce Dallas Howard. And then if Jon Favreau is not available, her dad can direct it.
All great choices.
Thank you.
Was it when you were starting, when you got cast on Once, you started working on Once, was there any particular moment that you had when you did it that you knew that this is going to, because it was such a fantastic show, it's just a wonderful show. Was there any scenes that you got to do that you knew, like, this is going to be such an iconic moment, or did it just feel like that for everything for you?
Iconic moments for me, I felt the most when I was riding my broomstick. I mean, it was iconic. Yeah. The Wizard of Oz is also such an iconic film. So to actually, and I really did fly a broomstick through the air from a ceiling 3 times as high as that. So I just thought, I can't wait for the background to all be filled in, and then I get to see what this really looks like. Especially in like the musical episode with my song, and like flying through the air and hitting munchkins in the head with a broomstick. Does it get better than that? No. That was my job. That's not normal.
Yeah. When you were like, so let's go back to when you knew you were going to be a bad guy. but you didn't know your character yet. And you said you and your husband were looking up all the Disney villains.
Yeah.
Did you have any that you thought that it might be were you leaning towards any? Like, oh, it could be this one, or was it?
I can't remember what they were, but my husband picked a couple of good ones that weren't already on the show. I was like, oh, maybe that. We might have even thought of Cruella, actually. I don't think she had been introduced yet, or Maleficent, or whatever. But yeah, we were way off.
Yeah. So, excellent. Well, you guys, this is how it works. She's going to be at her booth. You can go there and talk to her booth, and you guys can get an autograph. Can you guys give Rebecca a huge round of applause?
Thank you, everybody.
So much.
Thank you.